We all face those moments, right?
Mhm.
The ones where it feels like your past, your old hurts. Maybe these ingrained patterns are literally putting the brakes on what you truly desire in life.
Totally. Like
Mhm.
something's holding you back.
Exactly. What if understanding those deep-seated blocks wasn't just about insight, but about having actual tools to fundamentally change your reality?
Okay, yeah.
Okay, let's dive into that.
That's exactly the territory we're exploring in this deep dive. We're unpacking the core concepts and, the practical methods presented in Mandy Morris's book, Eight Secrets to Powerful Manifesting.
Right. And our source material today comes directly from excerpts of this book. So we're going deep into these pages to understand her approach to personal transformation and like what manifesting looks like through her lens.
Yeah, and our mission really is to understand this idea that manifesting, as she presents it, is far more than just, I don't know, positive thinking or wishing.
Right. It's deeper.
It's described as an energetic game, one profoundly influenced by our past programming, our core beliefs, our feelings, and our conscious choices.
Okay.
The material also emphasizes the role of higher power, and the book provides specific tools designed to help you shift your energy and, in turn, co-create the reality you desire.
So it's about fundamental internal change, really.
At its heart, yeah, that's the core of it.
So the central premise that kicks us off is this: abundance, happiness, love, purpose. These things find you when you are vibrating on your highest, clearest energetic path.
Mm, interesting phrasing, find you.
Yeah. And the book suggests this path is revealed by, like, understanding, purifying, and elevating your core beliefs. The more authentically you embrace who you are, the less resistance there is, and the easier manifestation supposedly becomes.
Yes, and she distills this path into what she calls her 8 secret principles. These are presented as keys designed to help you reach your desires, not through force, but, with ease and speed.
Ease and speed. Okay.
They're intended to guide you toward what she terms your most spectacular self, a version of you aligned with the universe's highest good.
Hmm.
That alignment, the book posits, becomes the foundation for manifesting any goal.
Help me understand where these methods originate, though. The author mentions a blend of influences, right?
Absolutely.
Mhm.
She describes developing many of them through intuitive and meditative channeling, something she says she's been doing since she was quite young, like since age 5.
Wow, 5.
Yeah. She operates from the belief that this information comes from a pure, divine source.
So a spiritual connection is really key here.
It's foundational, yeah. She talks about receiving specific guidance from the universe on how to teach manifesting, but it's not solely intuitive.
Okay.
Her work is also informed by her formal education. She has a bachelor's in psychology and a master's in business leadership.
Ah, okay. So there's that side too. And wasn't there even a link to scientific research?
Yes, she highlights research she's done alongside scientists, doctors, and psychiatric nurses, including studies on psychosomatic illnesses in
Yeah.
places like Scandinavia.
Right, psychosomatic mind-body stuff.
Exactly. So it's positioned as this unique blend of like intuitive insight, academic understanding, and what she sees as scientific parallels,
Okay.
all filtered through her own intense personal experiences and extensive client work.
Speaking of personal experience, what's particularly powerful about the book, I thought, is how the author frames her own journey as the bedrock of her methods. She really doesn't shy away from detailing how significant trauma shaped her path and led her to create these very healing techniques.
No, she doesn't. She details a pivotal traumatic event from when she was just 13, her father's suicide attempt.
Yeah, that's heavy.
And the impact she describes is profound and honestly pretty relatable. The helplessness, the internalization of guilt, confusion, regret, self-blame. She felt responsible, unlovable, disposable, she writes.
Wow. And that triggered a significant downward spiral for her.
Yes. According to the book, it led to bad grades, dropping out of gifted programs, abandoning activities she loved like music and sports. She describes wanting to become invisible, closing her heart off to protect herself from pain.
Which makes sense defensively.
Totally. But she realized later that this also inadvertently blocked love and positive experiences from coming in.
And she even traces this back through her family history, right? Noting her father's own struggles with childhood trauma, shame, inadequacy, addiction,
Yeah.
mirroring his grandfather.
Exactly. The book describes her subsequent years as running away from these difficult thoughts and feelings, chasing distraction in unstable situations and relationships, including developing bulimia.
That's tough.
Yeah, and despite working multiple jobs to support herself through education, she faced severe financial hardship, apparently even sleeping in her car at times.
Wow. This continued until she describes hitting, like, rock bottom in her 20s. She was in an abusive relationship, verbal, physical, and the turning point, she says, was a moment. Something about a wine glass.
Yes, a glass of red wine. Her boyfriend threw it, and it shattered on the wall behind her.
Wow.
That shattering glass moment wasn't just physical. She describes it as a visceral wake-up call. The realization hit her. Her deep lack of self-worth was allowing this turmoil, and she saw that she was unconsciously recreating patterns from her past, mirroring her father's struggles and her own unhealed pain. This was the moment she decided she could no longer accept that kind of life.
That's a powerful turning point. And that led to a profound commitment, didn't it?
Yes, she decided to dedicate herself to being a vessel of love, she puts it, to use her own trauma and healing journey to help others. This involved building new beliefs and perceptions, actively choosing a different path, and surrendering to the direction she felt guided to by a higher power or the universe.
So her intensely personal journey is presented as the very origin story of the methods she now teaches.
Pretty much, yeah. It gives it that grounded, lived-in feel.
So the foundation is acknowledging that personal history and trauma deeply influence us. Then the book shifts into this concept of energy and vibration. How does it position life itself as an energy game?
Well, the core idea is that your reality isn't just happening to you. It's more like a reflection of your internal state, particularly your energy and frequency. Manifesting, then, is influenced by this personal energy signature you're constantly emitting.
Okay, like we're broadcasting something all the time.
Kinda, yeah. And a key concept tied to this is the auric field.
The auric field, what does the book say that actually is?
It's described as an electromagnetic field that surrounds your physical body, extending outward. The book suggests that while our bodies have electrical circuits, this external field is where a lot of the energetic information is carried and generated.
So it's like your personal atmosphere, energetically speaking.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Like your personal invisible atmosphere extending roughly, I think she says 18 inches out from you.
And it holds everything, like memories and stuff.
According to this material, yes. It's posited to have 7 energy bands that link your physical and spiritual self. And these bands are said to hold the energetic residue of your experiences, your memories, your emotions.
Wow.
And it's intimately connected to the chakra system,
Right? It's a shock or
which
something?
is described as a kind of spiritual nervous system along your spine, with energy centers linked to physical organs and nerve bundles.
Yeah.
A bright aura and balanced chakras are associated with harmony and a higher vibration, basically.
Okay, so if this field is around us, how does it interact with the world? With other people's energy?
The book describes the auric field as both a filter and a communication system. So when your energetic waves encounter external frequencies from other people, from places, from your own thoughts and emotions, from past traumas, even illnesses, they merge. This merging creates a new frequency. Your body then acts like an antenna, receiving this combined data, sending it to your brain to interpret, and then sending a new frequency back out.
A feedback loop.
It's a constant feedback loop, exactly.
That sounds like if you have a lot of old, heavy energy from past trauma or programming stuck in your field, it could really impact what you experience in broadcast.
Precisely. The book calls this an enmeshed field. This is where counter-manifesting can happen.
Counter-manifesting.
Yeah, if your subconscious energy signature, maybe loaded with old fears and beliefs, is vibrating in opposition to what your conscious mind thinks it wants.
Oh.
Your energy's split, right? And you can unconsciously block the very things you're trying to attract.
So the big takeaway here is that your past isn't just history, it's energetically present. How does the book suggest you actually shift this energy and vibration?
Well, it starts with conscious choice, deciding to change your intentional energy. And becoming aware of those old subconscious reels or patterns running in the background is key.
Just awareness helps.
Apparently, yeah.
Oh.
Simply shining a light on them can start to dissipate their energetic hold. And practicing authentic self-love is presented as profoundly important, as it's described as an incredibly high-frequency emotion.
Okay. Are there other practical things mentioned, like concrete actions?
Yes, simple energetic clearing techniques are suggested. An Epsom salt bath, exercise, meditation, or even just spending time with people whose energy naturally lifts yours. High vibe people, you know.
Right.
The principle is that as you raise your consistent energetic state, The lower frequencies from others or old patterns become less likely to sort of stick to your field.
I remember one striking detail. The book states that the heart's energy field and frequency output are significantly stronger than the brain's.
Yeah, that's a powerful point, isn't it? Especially when you consider the emphasis on self-love and aligning your intentions from a place of authenticity later on. It hints at where some of the most impactful energetic shifts might originate not just from thinking, but from, like, feeling and being.
Okay, so energy is this fundamental layer, but the mind and brain are obviously critical too. How does the book connect our beliefs and thoughts to this whole manifestation picture?
Right. Beliefs are presented as the scaffolding of your identity. They determine what you accept as truth in the world, whether it's relationships are hard or opportunities are scarce.
The stories we tell ourselves.
Exactly. Your thoughts then spring from these foundational beliefs. And critically, the book states that thoughts themselves carry a frequency. So a core mechanism for changing your energy is changing your thoughts, which ultimately means addressing the underlying beliefs.
And trauma ties into this how? How does it create those beliefs?
Well, trauma is often seen as the event that creates these deeply rooted, often untrue beliefs. It overwhelms your ability to cope, significantly lowers self-esteem, warps your view of the world, and can trap you in a disempowered state,
Right.
unconsciously steering clear of anything that might trigger that old pain. A crucial distinction the book makes, though, is that you don't have to relive the trauma to heal.
Okay, that's important.
Yeah. The work, according to this material, is about addressing and changing the belief that the trauma created, because that belief is active now and can be changed in the present moment.
The book touches on some scientific ideas here, like mirror neurons and brain plasticity. How does it use those concepts to support this?
It draws on concepts from neuroscience to provide, let's say, potential support for why these methods might work. Mirror neurons are fascinating. They activate not just when you do something, but when you watch someone else do it, or even when you vividly imagine doing it yourself.
Right, like wincing when you see someone stub their toe in a movie.
Exactly. The book suggests that by intensely visualizing desired states or outcomes, you might be leveraging mirror neuron activity to literally start building or reinforcing new neural pathways in your brain, telling your brain, in a sense, we are doing this, even if it's only in your imagination initially.
And brain plasticity makes this kind of permanent change possible.
Yes, the fact that our brains are not fixed. They're constantly adapting, forming new connections, pruning old ones. This inherent plasticity is presented as the biological mechanism that allows you to actually change your beliefs, rewrite those old internal rules, and literally change the way your brain is wired,
Wow.
supporting the possibility of changing your reality.
This is where the psychosomatic illness research she mentions feels relevant, isn't it? Like the mind affecting the body.
It is.
Yeah.
Studying how chronic emotional states or persistent thought patterns can manifest as physical ailments, like the idea that suppressed anger might affect the liver, or a feeling of being unsafe manifesting as an allergy, is used in the book as evidence of the mind's power over dense matter, meaning the body. The leap presented is, if your thought energy can negatively impact your physical form, it stands to reason it could positively influence less dense forms of reality, like future events, your career path, or finding your purpose.
Okay, so it's kind of using that as an analogy almost.
Yeah, it seems like it's solidified her understanding of the brain's power and its wiring potential.
So the core insight from this blend of concepts is that changing your internal landscape, your beliefs, your thoughts, your energy, is not just metaphorical. There's a suggested, energetic, and even a potential neurological basis for why this can tangibly affect your external life.
Exactly.
It provides a framework for why the internal work outlined in the book could have such real-world impact.
Precisely. It grounds the energetic concepts in something potentially more familiar, suggesting there might be understandable mechanisms at play.
All right, let's move from the foundational concepts to the practical tools the book offers. Where do we start with those?
Okay, it starts with becoming acutely aware of your inner world. The book emphasizes check-ins.
Check-ins.
Yeah. Consistently pausing to notice how you feel, exploring why you feel it, determining if the feeling is rooted in the past, future, or present, what outcome you're anticipating from this feeling, and even discerning if the energy is truly yours or if you've picked it up empathically from someone else.
That last one is interesting. Is it even mine? And these check-ins lead to something called detangling.
Yes, they are the necessary prerequisite. Detangling is the process of investigating and removing the energetic and emotional roots of negative programming. This is where the actual rewiring of your reactions and brain pathways supposedly happens.
Okay.
It's often triggered by a specific event or interaction that makes you feel something, that charge.
Right, that emotional charge. This sounds like deep internal work. The book introduces the idea of personas here, which sounds intriguing.
This is a fascinating insight, I think. Well, a persona is described as a specific perspective or frame of reference your mind slips into when you're triggered.
Like a mask or a role.
Sort of. It's a way your mind tries to understand a feeling, but it's often based on unhealed thoughts rooted in the past or an imagined future. This is why a small current event can feel disproportionately intense. You're experiencing it through the filter of an old wound, often linked back to childhood.
Ah, okay. So when my boss says something slightly critical and I suddenly feel like the world is ending, that could be a persona kicking in.
Very likely. The book offers 3 key questions to help you identify and work with these personas in the moment. 1, what exactly am I telling myself right now? 2, what specific persona am I in, like 6-year-old me? And what fundamental need does that persona have right now?
What does it need? Okay.
And 3, how can I meet that specific need in a more elevated, adult, and healthy way now?
The book has great examples of this. Can you share one or two that illustrate how this works in practice?
Sure. There's the example of a supervisor scolding you. If that triggers a bankrupt you persona, maybe rooted in past financial insecurity.
Okay.
The underlying need is safety and security, the need to provide. The elevated response isn't to freeze or quit, but perhaps to, say, update your resume or look into side income, addressing the actual need in a constructive way, not reacting from the old fear.
Right, addressing the need, not the trigger.
Exactly. Or the example of feeling left out by a mom clique at school pickup, which triggers a 6-year-old Cindy persona rooted in playground rejection. The need is to feel included and worthy. Meeting that elevated need might be practicing self-care or connecting with friends who genuinely value you rather than trying to force acceptance from the clique.
That makes so much sense. The insight here is that these personas aren't just thoughts, they're entire frameworks loaded with old beliefs that distort your perception and keep reinforcing negative patterns in that enmeshed field you mentioned.
Exactly. Identifying the persona gives you distance from the intense emotion and reveals the old belief driving it. It's like, oh, that's what this is really about.
So once you've checked in, maybe identified a persona or trigger,
Mhm.
what about managing the intense emotion in the moment, that sudden rush? That's where pattern interrupts come in, right? Secret hashtag 3.
Yes, exactly. The secret hashtag 3. Pattern interrupts are immediate tools you can use to shift your emotional state and redirect your energy the instant you feel triggered or caught in a negative loop.
So they're like emotional first aid.
Kinda, yeah. What's their main purpose? Well, the immediate goal is to quickly elevate your emotional state, which in turn raises your vibrational frequency. But they also serve a crucial purpose with the brain.
Okay.
They create a split second of emotional distance from the automatic, triggered response. This pause allows your conscious mind a chance to get curious about the feeling's root, linking back to check-ins and detangling, instead of just defaulting to fight, flight, or freeze.
Ah, so it buys you time to choose a different response. How do they work with the brain's wiring, supposedly?
They're described as literally interrupting the limbic system's immediate, automatic survival response. By introducing a conscious choice or action in that moment, you're teaching your brain not to automatically fire down that old negative neural pathway. You're preventing the usual electrical charge from reinforcing the unwanted pattern.
Okay, so you're actively stopping the rut from getting deeper. What are some examples of these interrupts? Are they complicated?
No, not usually. They can be simple physical actions, like taking 3 deep breaths, stepping outside to feel the sun on your face, or grounding yourself by feeling your feet on the floor.
Simple physical things.
Yeah, or mental shifts, like repeating a simple affirmation, I'm good, I am safe, or visualizing something calming. One client even used imagining intertwined roots, connecting her to her husband when they were arguing.
Interesting.
Even physical activity like quickly going for a walk or doing a few push-ups can break the emotional state. Anything to shift the energy quickly.
It's important to remember these are interrupts, though. They manage the moment, but don't replace the deeper work, right? They're not the whole solution.
Absolutely not. The book stresses that pattern interrupts are powerful allies for managing the immediate emotional state and creating space. But the real transformation comes from consistently applying check-ins, detangling, and addressing those root beliefs and personas. You use the interrupt so you can do the deeper work effectively later. Got it. Okay, moving deeper into the secrets, we encounter self-love as secret hashtag 4. How does the book position this? It feels like a common theme in self-help, but maybe there's a specific angle here.
It's presented as a truly high-frequency emotion, not just a nice idea, but absolutely fundamental, like the engine of the entire manifesting process. But, and this is key, it has to be authentic.
Authentic self-love.
Yeah, it's seen as the fuel that powers your potential and, crucially, allows you to believe that you are actually worthy of receiving your desires. Without that belief in worthiness, it's hard to manifest, the book argues.
And what does a lack of self-love look like energetically, according to this?
It stems from a place of scarcity, fear, inauthenticity. It leads to focusing on self-protection, people-pleasing, operating from fear and secrecy rather than your highest self. This energy signature is described as attracting stress, anxiety, reactivity, emptiness, and resentment.
Yeah, it sounds exhausting just describing it.
It does. So what does practicing authentic self-love involve according to the book, beyond maybe the typical self-care advice like bubble baths? Right, what's the substance?
The book describes it as trusting yourself implicitly, cultivating a deep sense of connection to who you truly are, setting clear boundaries from a place of honoring yourself, prioritizing your own peace, and consistently speaking gently and kindly to yourself, like you would to a dear friend.
That inner voice.
Huge. It's seen as actively healing trauma described as emotional or energetic fractioning, where parts of you disconnect to cope by making you feel whole again. This integrated state helps you translate fear to curiosity and actively reinforces those positive neural pathways we discussed earlier.
And this connects back to the higher power concept again.
Yes, the book posits God or source or universe, whatever term you use, as the ultimate source of unconditional love, a love that is infinitely available everywhere. Believing in this source reinforces your inherent worthiness, a core tenet of self-love, regardless of past mistakes or external validation.
Okay, so with a foundation of self-love and awareness from check-ins and detangling, you can then engage with intentional energy, which is secret, #5.
Right. This is about consciously directing your energy towards a specific goal or outcome, ensuring that the frequency you're sending out is high and dominant. The internal work you've ideally done means you're setting intentions from a much clearer energetic state.
So the clearer you are inside, the clearer the signal you send out.
That's the idea. Manifesting from this place of purity and presence is said to pull you into the now, where the possibilities for creation are described as endless.
It sounds like once you do the inner work, what you think you want might even change as you get clearer.
The book notes that this is common, actually. As you become more authentic and aligned, your deepest desires might shift from what your ego thought it wanted to what your true self actually craves. Your intentions become more genuine.
There's a simple, relatable example the author gives about shifting intentional energy. Something about shoveling dog poop. It sounds funny but illustrative.
Yes. It's a great illustration of conscious energy shifts in a really mundane situation. She describes being with her son, facing a yard full of dog poop, feeling annoyed and overwhelmed.
Standard parent moment.
Right.
Totally been there.
She consciously decided to shift the energy around the task, from annoyance to fun, making poop jokes, engaging playfully with her son. This simple, intentional shift in her internal energy, she says, made the tedious chore feel effortless, and they finished quickly.
Huh.
It highlights that choosing your energetic state is a conscious act you can practice even in mundane moments. Energy shifts are a choice.
That awareness and intentional energy then feed into secret #6, creating a manifestation blueprint for action steps. So it's not just about sitting back and waiting.
Right, this is where the action comes in. But it's presented as action guided by the universe, not driven purely by force or hustle. After setting your intention from a clean, energetic space, you remain open to receiving guidance for the steps to take.
So you set the what and stay open to the how.
Kind of. It still involves visualization and managing triggers that come up, but also involves detaching from the how or the exact outcome, trusting it will unfold for the highest good.
So it's not about hustling blindly, stressing about every detail.
No, it's described as inspired action. The blueprint helps solidify your mindset and expectation that the outcome is possible, which makes you receptive to the breadcrumbs the universe supposedly leaves for you. Signs, synchronicities, intuitive nudges towards the next logical or even seemingly illogical step.
Following the breadcrumbs. The client example of Carmine illustrates this beautifully, doesn't it?
It really does. She was a stay-at-home mom, husband unemployed, they were on food stamps. She borrowed money for one of the author's programs, manifested the fee for a live event through an unexpected tax refund.
Okay.
And then Applying the secret, she became laser-focused on following the guidance she felt she received, like selling a second car they didn't really need to get out of debt, attending the workshop she felt strongly called to. Within 3 months, her husband had a new job, they were debt-free. Wow, that's quite a turnaround.
Yeah, it wasn't just wishing. It was taking specific guided steps fueled by conviction and expectation. That's the blueprint idea.
Okay, that leads us to secret #7, which is about rewriting the rules. What does that mean?
This addresses those deep-seated, often unconscious beliefs, the rules your mind lives by, that create persistent blocks and slow down manifestations. These rules, like I'm not good enough or life is always a struggle, were often formed in childhood or through trauma.
The underlying programming.
Exactly. But thanks to brain plasticity, the book says you can actually change them. They aren't fixed.
So how does one go about identifying and changing these ingrained rules? That sounds hard.
The suggestion is to evaluate the rules you have in different areas of your life regularly, maybe every few months, or whenever a situation feels particularly heavy or blocked. Identify the old rule that feels limiting, and then consciously formulate a new rule that feels light, expansive, and inspiring.
A new rule that feels better energetically. Yeah. The 3 questions used for personas can be helpful here, especially when dealing with complex history or relationships. You then have to kind of test the new rule by consciously trying to operate from that perspective. See how it feels, if it holds.
Any notable examples of this working from the book? Changing a deep rule?
Kina changing her rule about her mother is powerful. She went from "mom will never change," which kept her stuck in resentment, to "I can choose to act from love,"
Yeah.
focusing on her own response, and eventually to a rule that honored boundaries but still allowed for potential connection in a new way.
That's a big shift.
Huge. And Faith, dealing with her son's addiction, had a rule like, "A good mom does everything to fix her child." She eventually rewrote it to something like, "A good mom loves her son so much that she fully releases him to his own journey," realizing her old rule was unconsciously enabling and causing her immense pain.
Wow. That's incredibly challenging work, but you can see how fundamentally it could shift the dynamics in her own well-being.
Absolutely. The payoff being, the book claims it lifts you into higher vibrational realms. You're no longer creating from fear-based limiting rules, but from expansive high vibrational beliefs. It literally expands your perceived reality instead of keeping it small and constrained by the old rules.
Okay, that makes sense. Finally, secret #8 is accessing your future self. This sounds a bit more out there, maybe.
It can sound that way initially. It's this concept of accessing wisdom that's already within you, essentially.
Wisdom from the future.
Well, the idea is that in a meditative state, you can connect with a version of yourself who has already navigated the current challenges you face and achieved your goals. This future self holds the guidance you need right now.
Okay, how do you actually do that? What's the process?
The practice involves relaxing deeply, entering a peaceful, safe, imaginative space. She calls it a sacred space. From there, you call upon your future self, this wiser version of you, and ask for specific guidance regarding your current situation or goal.
And then you just listen.
You listen, you feel, you observe. The key is to make the visualization incredibly visceral and memorable, drawing that future energy, that feeling of accomplishment and clarity into your present moment.
Is there a prerequisite for this? Like, do you have to be in a certain state?
A crucial one, apparently. The book emphasizes you must be ready to act on the guidance you receive, even if it feels difficult or scary or counterintuitive.
Ah, ready to act.
Yeah. If contemplating the guidance makes you feel intensely resistant or shaken, it's presented as a sign you likely need to do more foundational healing and detangling work first. You need to understand the resistance before you can act on the future wisdom. Otherwise, you just won't do it.
That makes sense. You need to clear the blocks first. And how does future self-guidance actually help in the manifestation process?
Well, it can reveal the next steps for your manifestation blueprint, potentially accelerating and amplifying your results. Sometimes the guidance is directly related to your goal, like a specific business idea, but often, the book says, it's about healing deeper patterns. Like the example of someone receiving guidance to call your dad and heal that relationship, which seemed unrelated to their career goal, but was apparently necessary energetic clearing before other manifestations could flow freely.
Interesting. Addressing the hidden blocks.
And a practical application of this, which I found quite clever, is naming positive personas.
Ah, okay. Like how you might name a negative persona like 6-year-old Cindy.
Exactly. But for the positive side,
Yeah.
you can create an energetic and psychological anchor by naming positive future versions of yourself. Zen Judy, Millionaire Judy, Capable Catherine.
I like capable Catherine.
Right, so when you're faced with a challenging situation and maybe can't meditate, you can mentally call upon that persona. What would Capable Catherine do right now? And consciously embody their mindset and behavior.
The example of Catherine handling her stepson's biological mom's hurtful comment that used this, right?
Yeah, instead of reacting defensively, she paused, mentally stepped into Capable Catherine, and responded with grace and boundaries. It's about using that future self energy in real time.
It really shows how these tools can be used practically, in the moment, to navigate difficult interactions and maintain a higher vibrational state.
Exactly. Not just for big manifestation goals, but for daily life.
The book shares several other client stories, too, that seem to bring all these concepts together. Can you touch on a few highlights?
Sure. There was Nicole, who used check-ins, detangling, and self-love reminders to heal deep ancestral and personal trauma, moving her energy from just survival mode to completely reinventing her life.
Wow, ancestral trauma, too.
Yeah. And Malaya, who integrated all the self-help knowledge she'd gathered over years but finally did it with love, reframed childhood limiting beliefs and saw massive physical and professional changes, significant weight loss, and a totally new career path by truly listening to her soul's guidance.
Listening to her soul. Okay.
Yes, Kelly, who healed a long-standing specific trauma around phone calls rooted in childhood stuff with her parents. She used check-ins and detangling to understand the root trigger, set boundaries, and learn to trust the universe instead of always bracing for bad news when the phone rang.
That's very specific, but you can see how limiting it would be.
Totally. Mike overcame crippling negative self-talk, imposter syndrome, and shyness, not by forcing himself, but by consciously getting out of his own way, choosing self-acceptance, and almost deciding to like things that previously felt awkward or unhealthy, like networking or healthy food. He changed his attitude first.
He decided to like networking. That's bold.
Right. Adopted the attitude he wanted. Diane healed from trauma related to her upbringing, excessive giving, and a past abusive relationship. She reframed core beliefs about her parents and herself, became realistically positive, and manifested abundance by shifting her giving patterns from obligation to genuine flow.
Shifting the energy of giving.
And Carla, healing from eating disorders and abusive relationships, really leaned into being her own best friend, focusing intensely on intentional energy and sustaining a high vibration, ultimately recognizing her inherent power as an energetic being capable of creating change.
These stories really underscore the powerful synergy of the 8 secrets, don't they? It seems like they work together.
Absolutely. They work together to facilitate profound shifts, not just in external circumstances like finances or jobs, but in deep internal states like emotional well-being and physical health. The journey the book lays out is ultimately about uncovering your authentic self, bravely revising the beliefs that hold you back, consciously changing your energy, and actively co-creating a future aligned with your highest potential.
It's depicted as demanding work, though, not just snapping your fingers.
Definitely not. But with potentially life-altering rewards, according to these accounts.
So let's just recap the journey we've taken through these ideas in this deep dive. We started with the profound reality that our past trauma and programming don't just disappear. They energetically influence our present reality and beliefs, that enmeshed field.
Right. Still active.
We then explored the crucial inner work of check-ins and detangling, using the insight of personas to understand our triggered reactions, why we feel the way we do.
Getting that awareness.
We saw how pattern interrupts offer immediate relief, like first aid, to create space for that deeper work.
Buys you that crucial pause.
The book posits self-love, authentic self-love, as a foundational high-frequency engine, essential for directing intentional energy and following a manifestation blueprint guided by the universe, those breadcrumbs.
Yeah, the engine and the fuel.
And finally, the power of actively rewriting old limiting rules, those unconscious programs, and even accessing the wisdom of our future selves to accelerate our path forward.
It's quite a comprehensive system she lays out.
It really is. The core message resonating from this material seems clear. Your reality is intricately shaped by your internal state, by the beliefs you hold, the thoughts you entertain, the feelings you carry, and the cumulative energy they create.
Your inner world creates your outer world, essentially.
But the empowering insight is that you possess the capacity to understand and actively change this internal landscape. And by doing so, you can consciously participate in co-creating a life that is deeply aligned with your most authentic self and the highest good.
It puts the power back in your hands, ultimately.
What stands out to you most from this deep dive, having gone through all these concepts?
For me, it's the way the book attempts to bridge the gap between the seemingly ethereal concepts of energy and manifesting with more grounded ideas like brain plasticity and psychological patterns like personas.
Right, trying to connect the dots.
Yeah, it gives the framework a sense of structure and potential mechanism, even if the scientific links are presented more as parallels rather than direct proven causation. It makes it feel a bit more accessible, maybe.
And the emphasis on the heart's energy being stronger than the brain's, that really shifts where you might focus your effort, doesn't it? Away from just mental effort.
It certainly does. It suggests transformation isn't just a mental game. It's felt and generated from a deeper, more authentic place within you, which ties back to that self-love piece, too.
Absolutely. Okay, here's something to maybe mull over as we wrap up this deep dive. If the universe itself is constantly expanding, and you, as a part of it, are also limitless in your potential, what previously unimaginable possibility is poised and ready to unfold in your life the very moment you courageously allow your internal energy to finally match it?